Hey, first of all, Southwest, hi. Second, so how's your year been? Has this been a crazy year? I'm going to introduce what I'm going to say by telling you a quick story. The last time I stood here, it was 64 weeks ago. It was the second week in March, a year and a half, well, almost a year and a half ago now, and somebody started hearing things about this thing called COVID. Anybody heard of it? And I spoke here. Our Thrive conference was going to be here in 2 weeks, and we pretty much sold it out here. I went home. I'm in a backyard in La Quinta, and I get the news, Coachella. Heard of Coachella? Coachella pulls the plug and shuts down. Anybody remember that day? 2 hours later, that tennis tournament closes down. And I'm in this backyard going, we're gonna have to shut this conference down. And so I call my staff, call Ricky, call everybody, and we pull the plug on not just the conference here, but the conference up in Northern California. And the minute we pulled that plug on that, I cannot describe to you how discouraged I was. I was discouraged, depressed. This is embarrassing to admit because I'm the guy that wrote the book Hope Quotient. And when I get down, but I don't stay down very long. And I got down, I was so discouraged, and I stayed there. Raise your hand if you know exactly what that feels like after this year. And it was a couple days later, and I'm so bummed because these conferences, these Thrive conferences, they recharge people's battery. They change lives. I mean, we have a couple thousand Christian leaders and lay people from all around the world descend here in Southern California. This one sells out at 2,000. The one in Northern California, we run that up. We don't close that until it's about 4,500. People come from countries, states, churches, and it's electric, it's electrifying, it's transformational. What it does to people, it recharges their batteries. They catch fresh news from God and all this stuff. And I love those 2.5 days. I love it up there, I love it here. We have a lot of friends that come, and I literally love watching people walk into a conference or a room discouraged, watching God zap them and watch them go back out ready to live for God again, okay? I love that, and it's all gone. And I was so bummed. And I'm literally going, oh, the future, will we never do another conference? The future, what's the future of the church? Is there all this kind of stuff? And I just spiraled downwards, which is embarrassing to admit. And about 2 or 3 days later, took my Bible, went out in the backyard, sat in a lawn chair, and I just read for a while. And here is my main lesson of COVID, and I couldn't wait to tell you all this. Because if you get this, every single way you feel can be different and better. Every emotion you have can bounce back. If you get this, you can bounce back, your finances can bounce back, your health can bounce back, your marriage can bounce back. The Church of Jesus Christ, which doesn't just need to be reopened, it needs to be rebuilt better than it was ever in the first place, okay? In other words, if you get this, you can bounce back and have a future, and if you don't get this, you have no future and will just stay down or spiral downward even more. While I'm out there, God crystal clear said to me, Ray, if you will let go of discouragement, and before I give you the rest of this, I want to say this. We need to start taking discouragement more seriously as a church and as people and Christians. You know, discouragement is a weapon that Satan will use against you to carve out your heart and wreck your ministry. We need to start taking discouragement seriously. It is a weapon. Nothing ever got destroyed where discouragement didn't arrive first, create the conditions, and then it got destroyed. No young guys ever come up to me and said, man, I am so encouraged about my marriage, I'm getting a divorce. Nobody ever came and said, I'm so encouraged about my church, I'm leaving. I'm so encouraged about my job, I'm quitting. I'm so encouraged about how I'm doing in school, I'm dropping out. Discouragement is the quicksand that Satan likes to suck you into just before he carves out your heart and wrecks your. We have got to start taking discouragement far more seriously. It is a weapon of the enemy designed to wreck you on the inside so he can wreck everything about your future. And I am discouraged. And God says to me, Ray, if you will let go of discouragement and replace it with dreaming, the world just might be a better place. If you will let go of discouragement and replace it with dreaming, because God said, I'm not dead, I've got all the power I've ever had. Stop being discouraged, replace it with, I want to make sure you get this, if you will let go of discouragement and replace it with dreaming, the world just might be a better place. And so that's exactly what I did. I did not get out of that chair. I took out a piece of paper and I went, okay, God, we just canceled 2 conferences that I love. It looks like a disaster. Do you have dreams? And I started writing this stuff down. And I literally was like, what if instead of this in-person conference with 6,000 people, what if we put it online? And then I started going, well, let's dream big, okay? We got a big God, let's dream big. I went, what if we took the entire conference and we put it online? And what if we went global? And what if we launched the first ever completely online, absolutely free, so anybody from anywhere can come, global, so that anyone from any place can come? What if we launch that conference, and what if we raise $1 million at that conference, and we use all of that for kids in third world countries that are being destroyed by COVID? And then what if we ask every speaker to speak for free because the conference is free? What if we did that? And what if we got the entire thing done in 6 weeks, start to finish? So I called our staff, got an online staff meeting, got a Zoom thing, put some people in a room when I got back home and said, all right, what do y'all think? They all bought it and we went after it full scale. And then we had a massive race pandemic. Anybody notice? That broke out. So then 3 weeks before, I call a staff meeting and go, what if? I know this conference is only like 2.5 weeks away. What if we moved the conference one day and we had a full day conference on healing the divisions in the divided states of America, okay? And because our churches need to look more like heaven than the divided states of America. You're one of the few getting this right, by the way. And so we went, what if this happens? And so we like dreamt this stuff, and I went, I have no idea if this is gonna work, but God had said, let go of discouragement and start dreaming. And I literally was hoping, we had 6,000 people in this conference. I was hoping we'd have at least 6,000 people online, because we've never done this before, okay? Or what if it got bigger? And what if we had like 12,000 people? Or what if it doubled? What if it's tripled? What if it went up 10 times and we had 60,000 people online? So we send this stuff out. Every single speaker we asked to speak said yes for free. World-class business leaders, entertainment people, Willie and Corey Roberts from Duck Dynasty came on. We had sports folks. We had every Christian leader on the planet that we wanted said yes. It was insane what happened on this kind of thing. And we threw it all online. We have a studio set up at our campus up there, and we start broadcasting on Monday morning. And I'm at this like sort of a desk where you're like on TV kind of, and I'm at this desk, and somebody hands me a sheet of paper, and they said, here's the current attendance. And I looked, my heart skipped because I went, here we go. Are there like 5 people online, or are there what is on? I look on, they said there are currently 500,000 plus people watching this online. And They said this. Now, you can mess with those numbers. So they said there are 434 distinct devices online, and a lot of people are watching it in groups. So all we know is it's over that. We don't know how much. And then this is the cool thing. There are people there from 113 countries. There were people attending from countries where the gospel of Jesus Christ has been banned and can't go. We had people from China. We had people from Saudi Arabia. We had people from all these different countries, and we had people from Iran. The first question that was asked in the chat string was in Swahili. 2 people answered it in Swahili. And I couldn't believe it. And I sat at that desk and I went, if anybody here decides to let go of discouragement and replace it with dreaming, your world just might be a better place because the God we serve is still alive and has all the power it needs to work. That makes sense? Okay. Now, here's the problem is this. When you're discouraged and when you feel weak, what do? And so I'm going to come out swinging. Is that okay with y'all? And I'm going to be real upfront about everything I'm going to say. I want to give you, I'm an old guy. I'm an old pastor, okay? You got a young pastor, you got a young staff runner. I'm the old guy. So I'm going to give you a prescription straight from another old pastor, the Apostle Paul, writing to a young guy named Timothy. And he writes a book to Timothy called 2 Timothy. These people are sharp. He writes a book to a guy named Timothy, okay? And the theme of the book of 2 Timothy is chapter 2, verse 2. He says, finally, my son, be strong in the Lord. The theme of 2 Timothy is this. How in the world do you stand strong in crazy times? How in the world do you get stronger in crazy times? What do you do to bounce back in crazy times? Notice, how do you stand strong? And he writes this book, and here's the deal. Paul gives Timothy a prescription for how to bounce back from anything. I'm going to make you memorize this. If you're in here, you're online, you're outside, you're not going to be talking back at me. If you're in your living room, yell at the TV. If you're in here, yell at me. If you're outside, yell at the screen. Okay, here we go. Paul in 2 Timothy chapter 1, to strengthen this Timothy. And by the way, Timothy needed strengthening. He's a young guy. He's in leadership. He is overwhelmed. He's got health problems. He's got stomach problems, probably due to nerves, okay? He says, recalling your tears. He is an insecure guy. He's in the town of Ephesus. I have been in Ephesus several times, taken tours there. Ephesus was there was a massive cult that was dominating the entire area. Timothy's always under attack. He's a nervous wreck, all of this kind of stuff. Kind of a lot of it felt this. And Paul says, I'm going to strengthen this guy, and I'm going to give him 3 things, and if he will do these things, every single thing can be different. And here they are, okay? Number 1 is this. Just jot these down. The first thing he says to Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 1 is this. He says, you then, my son, stay close to God, okay? Stay close to God. Can we go to the next slide? That way you can see it, okay? Is it up there? Stay close. There it is. He says 3 things. Number 1, stay close to God. Okay, and we'll come back to this in a minute, but he starts by saying this. He starts by saying, you have a faith, a sincere faith. And so he starts with Timothy's faith. He's saying, number 1, stay close to God. Okay, y'all ready? The first one is this, stay close. Say it out loud with me, stay. Okay, wait, this is like the service you've already had breakfast. So y'all ready? Here we go, stay close, okay? Now, that's spiritual strength, okay? He starts with staying close. Then he says, stay calm. He has this great phrase. He says, you keep your head in all situations. We'll come back to that in a minute, okay? But he says, number 1, stay close to God. Number 2, stay calm. That's emotional health. And then the next thing he says is, join with me. And that means he's saying, stay connected. This is a prescription for strength. You want a strength? Okay, here it is. Stay close, stay calm, stay connected. Y'all ready? You want a stronger relationship with God? What do? Number 1 is stay close. Get closer to God. Then the second one is calm down. And the third one is stay connected, don't isolate. That will give you spiritual strength, emotional health, and relational stability. This is God's prescription for everything. You want to be emotionally in better shape? Get closer to God, calm down, and stay connected to people and get some support. Some of you are here going, I'd like to have a better marriage. Okay, how does that happen? Get closer to God. That'll give you spiritual strength. That will enable you to stay calm down. That will give you emotional health. Then, what do you do next? Stay connected in that marriage. Okay, anybody here like to make America great again? What's the real prescription for making America great again? Here it is. Great countries have three things. They have spiritual strength, emotional health, and relational stability. That, my friends, is a great country, okay? How do you get that? You get it from staying close to God. The closer people in our country are to God, the more spiritual strength we have. Then you stay calm. Our country needs to calm down. Both political parties should just shut up and calm down for a while, okay? And then stay connected. That's relational stability. Now, I'm going to unpack each one, but I want to make sure y'all got this memorized. Even if you're retired, I want to make sure you got this memorized. Y'all ready here? Okay, here we go. Number one, stay. Okay, look, y'all, you're already. First one is stay close. Stay connected. That is a prescription for a great year. That is a prescription for a great year. Okay? And I'm going to unpack each one for a couple minutes. He starts with God. Okay? So the first one is this: stay close to God. And watch this verse. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verses 4 and 5. Some of the great verses on faith in the Bible. He says, recalling your tears. So there's Timothy's discouraged. He said, recalling your tears, I long to see you so that I may be filled with joy. And then watch this. He says, I have been reminded of your sincere faith, which first, here's a great phrase, lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded now, what's the next word? Lives in you. He has two characteristics of faith here, and here they are. The first one is this. He says it's a sincere faith. Faith, to be authentic faith. Your faith will never change your life unless it has two characteristics. Number one, it's got to be sincere. Second is, he says, it first lived. It's got to be alive. Those two things are like hook and live wires together. Faith is sincere, which means I authentically believe in Jesus. I authentically believe in the Bible. I have basically I've got a statement of faith and I believe, okay? That's a sincere faith, okay? But I know people, they go to church every week. They have a statement of faith. You go, are you a Christian? Yes. Do you believe in Jesus? Yes. Do you believe in the resurrection? Yes. Do you believe in the cross? Yes. Do you believe in the Bible? Yes. In other words, they got a statement of faith. However, it's dead as a doornail. It is not alive. The only kind of faith that ever is transferable is a faith that is alive. And the Christian church needs to make sure our faith is authentic and solid and sincere, but it's also got to make sure everybody's faith comes alive. Does that make sense? Okay, and this is huge. Now, why does he start there? This is a really big deal. He says, stay close to God. Because if you're taking notes, write this down. Okay, here it is. Okay, what you believe, you become. What you believe, you become. If you believe that you're going to be overweight for the rest of your life, you will be overweight for the rest of your life. If you believe you will be discouraged for the rest of your life, that's what you believe, you will be discouraged for the rest of your life. If you believe you will be filled with anxiety for the rest of your life, if you believe you will be distant from God for the rest of your life, that's exactly. If you believe that you will be unused by God for the rest of life, that's exactly. What you believe, you become. But if you believe that in God's forgiveness, then you can experience freedom. And if you believe in God's power, you can let go of discouragement and replace that with hope. Does that make sense? What you believe, what you become. It all starts by staying close to God. That's number one, okay? Now, he starts by saying, stay close to God. That's exactly what happened to me in that backyard. I walked in that backyard and I basically went, I need to connect with God. And after connecting with God and getting closer to God, God starts speaking to me. And God says, let go of discouragement and replace it with dreaming. And the rest of the thing is just history. okay? The number one is this: stay close to God. It all starts there. And then he goes on and says this: stay calm. There is a verse that every single Christian should memorize. You all ready? Here it is. Keep your head in all situations. Keep your head in all situations. Then he goes on and says, endure hardship, do the work of an evangelist, discharge all the duties of your ministry. Folks, our country has gone crazy this year. Wouldn't you agree? Is there anybody keeping their cool in our country? He says, if you're gonna be a solid Christian, Timothy, he goes, you gotta learn to keep your head, keep your cool. In other words, stay close to God, but stay calm down. And I want to read you something. This was heartbreaking. If you are a Christian leader, if you're leading anything right now, you can't win. You literally can't win, okay? I got this letter from a friend of mine. He's up in the state of Washington, but he could be speaking for every pastor. Matter of fact, I was on 4 different Zoom calls speaking this week to people internationally, okay? So I was with 60 different leaders of movement groups, and some of these folks were over hundreds of churches in Europe, did the same thing with pastors from Ireland, did the same thing with the people in the Bay Area. I was with the church and their board, mapping out their future and just doing some consulting with them, and they could all write the same thing. This person wrote me this note, and that he said, here's what I sent to my church. As I'm sure every one of you has also experienced, this last year has brought with it a deep exhaustion, has been really, really hard. Anybody know what he's talking about? He said this, and it has affected our church in a significant way. Then he goes on to say this: we saw people leave because they were frustrated we weren't meeting soon enough. Sound familiar? We saw people leave because they were frustrated we were meeting again too soon. We saw people leave because they thought we taught the Bible in a way that didn't align exactly with their political party of choice. We saw people leave because they thought we didn't take a strong enough stand on social issues, and we saw people leave because they thought we took too strong of a stand on social issues. We saw people leave because they didn't think we were doing enough. We saw people leave because they thought we were doing too much. We saw people leave because they were relocating for a job. We saw people leave because they wanted to move to a more affordable area. We saw people leave because they were moving to be closer to family, and for countless other reasons. The bottom line is this: this year our hearts have been broken because we saw a lot of people leave. And on top of all that, because of the reality of COVID and not being able to meet, we had to lay off our entire staff last summer and try to figure out how to reinvent church during a quarantine with just me and one other guy on staff. And now, because of the vaccine, things are starting to open up again. And with that reality, we've been faced with a very difficult decision of what to do next. And for these last few months, we've been talking and praying to try to determine whether or not we have the energy to build this church up from the ground again. And we were reminded what we said when we launched this church 11 years ago: you only launch a church once in a lifetime. And to be honest, we've been so tired for the last 4 or 5 years and feel like we've given everything we can to this place. We lost our house when we planted this church. We lost our adoption. We almost lost our adoption. We've lost friendships. We've given our time, energy, and heart and soul to this place because we believe in and love this community and what we stand for. And as difficult as this is for us to say, we feel like it's time for us to move to whatever God has next. We don't know what this is yet, but just like we trusted his leading when we started this church, we're trusting his leading to this next unknown chapter. This was written to inform you. We are closing our church. And they shut the church down because they couldn't take it anymore. And I just want to say something. I'm sure this isn't true here, but I am spending all of my time these days with pastors around the globe and especially on the West Coast here. Every single person leading anything is playing lose-lose. You can't win, including me up at Bayside a year ago, okay? I'll give you an example, okay? I'd get up Bayside and say, okay, hey, wear a mask on the way in and wear a mask on the way out. What do you mean we're wearing a mask? That's insane. Why? You can't demand we wear a mask. That's unconstitutional. Yeah, and they literally, I have a stack of letters attacking me for asking people to wear a mask just on the way in and on the way out. How dare you ask us to wear a mask? That's my constitutional rights of freedom. All this kind of stuff. You must be a Democrat, okay? And all this stuff. Literally, I actually got a letter from one person, a longtime member of our church. You're asked me to wear a mask. I'm leaving our church. Evidently, Governor Newsom is your new God. Well, that's the case. I signed a petition to get rid of my new God. But don't applaud. Now, on the other hand, though, because we opened up, we got all these attacking letters. People they swore at us on the phone. You blankety blank blank, you're trying to kill us all. I'm going, open up. Matter of fact, I actually said finally this person that attacked me for asking him to wear a mask on the way in, I finally said, look, we have a lot of older people in this church. We have people with preconditions. We have a lot of these folks. And I looked at him and said, Jesus died on a cross, suffered and died and bled and had his hands nailed so that you and I could be forgiven and freed. All I'm asking you to do is wear a mask from the car on the way in. Think you can do that? And I actually want to pause here. I want to make sure there's anything I want to say about this. I want to pause here and say thank you. I was just with the church board last week, and they said this kind of crazy guy played politics all year long and opened early and claimed he had courage and claimed the rest of the pastors were wimps. And this is way up in Northern California, and up at a town called Placerville. And they said, we lost a lot of our people to that church because he claimed our pastor didn't have courage. And I looked at them and I said, every community has experienced that. And I said, sometimes it takes more courage to do things in a way that is God-honoring and protecting of vulnerable people than just to open and ignore all of that kind of stuff. And I want to publicly say thank you to you as a church. You know I love this church. Felt like home, driving on here today. I want to say thank you. If you're this church, you're not just, your staff, Ricky and your staff, they're not just running one church. They had to go develop a full online church and a full outside church and a full inside church and put up with every person losing their mind these days. And I want to publicly say thank you for representing the gospel right down the middle by giving people opportunities for worship, but not caving into either extreme who are just trying to divide the church. But thank you for being the church that is bringing people together. So thank you, okay? And I'm going to give you one more example of this. By the way, you know what your church has done better than most? You've kept your head. This church kept its cool. Well done. Took flack for it, but these days, mature people take flack. Wise people take flack. Balanced people take flack. I'll give you one more example of this. When is a person mature? I have 4 kids. My entire life, I said, when is somebody ready for marriage? When is somebody ready for marriage? 25? 50? Anybody know a guy that's 50 and isn't ready for marriage? Anybody married to that guy? You're sitting next to him. Never mind. And the whole time I've been saying, you are ready for marriage when you are ready to stay committed to something when it's tough. That's when you're ready for marriage. When you keep your cool and you stay committed, things are tough. And my daughter, Christy, got married 2 weeks ago. And my boys, like them getting married, no problem, man. We're like, you want them? Take them. Yeah, great. Giving away your daughter, dads, right? Giving away your daughter is like giving $1 million violin to a gorilla. That's what it felt like to me, okay? And we hit the in-law jackpot. I mean, great Christian people from Canada. Their parents have been married. Both sets of parents have been married for over 50 years, all of them Christians. But Canada's more shut down than we are. Immigration stuff, it was insane to try to put on a wedding. I mean, it was chaotic to even get them here. Then we've launched a church in Orange County. on the campus of Vanguard University. And so we're down there, and they were like, we'd like to get married down there somewhere, so somebody let us use the backyard. Spectacular. And then what happened is we end up, about 2 weeks before I get a phone, 2 weeks before the wedding, I get a phone call, and it's somebody saying, hey, your daughter Christy's been in an accident. I'm like, what? This, never, ever. And what happened is she and his family and her now husband Joey, they were out mountain bike riding, and she came and hit this thing and end over off the handlebars and broke her ankle. And as in like serious break, like pins, stuff like that. 2 weeks before her wedding. And her entire life, she and I have been dreaming about the moment we walked down the aisle. Gone. All this stuff gone. You know the thing, keep your head in all situations? I was not doing that. I'm like, God, this is not fair. All this kind of stuff. She's an amazing girl. She all this kind of stuff. Christy was cool, calm, collected. She looked stunning. We practiced going down the aisle in our living room with one crutch on one arm, and I walked down the aisle. It was amazing, and she was so cool, so calm, collected, and so we walked down the aisle, and then I had a buddy of mine up there. They asked me to do the wedding, which is this awesome honor, and so a buddy of mine asked the first questions and who gives her to be married to, and I said the person that really raised her mom, and me, and then I turn her over, and then I go to do the wedding, and we put a couple of chairs down here like this, angled, so they could see them. And then I sat in a chair here, and the first thing I said to she, I was choked up, but the first thing I said to she and Joey was, I said, what I want to let you all know is this. I told them about the accident, and I said, Christy, you have kept your head and stayed calm. I have not seen you freak out one time. When we said, do you want to delay the wedding? No. I said, you are stunning. You have stayed classy. You have stayed calm while everybody else wasn't. You have been cool, calm, and collected. And Joey, I have watched you for the last 2 weeks. You have taken care of her, served her, carried her places. You have absolutely been amazing. And I looked right at him and I got choked up and I said, here's what I really want to say. You two are ready for a lifetime of marriage. You guys are ready for a lifetime of marriage. Why? Because people are ready to tackle anything when they stay calm. And when Paul says, keep your head in all situations. Let me just ask you before I move on. Anybody here need a massive dose of calm? Anybody here need to chill? Anybody here need to go, take a breath. God's still in charge. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Number one, stay close. Number two, stay calm. And number three is stay connected, stay connected. And Paul has this great verse where he says this, join with me. See those three words? Join with me. Notice he doesn't say split and leave. He says, join with me in suffering for the gospel by the power of God. I love that. He says, join with me. You know what's funny is I have, this is my Bible. If you turn to Genesis chapter 1 says this, it is not good for man or woman to be alone. I'm convinced, well, I'll come back to that in a second. It's on the first page of the Bible. It's not good for men or women to be alone because if you're alone, you're unsupported, like bad things. Jesus said, where two or three gather in my name. We'll come back to that in a second. When COVID hit, we did the opposite of that verse. We went into relational shutdown. We call it social distancing, which pretty much went stay home, okay? And what happened is now with the vaccines, where we are up in Northern California, the vaccines and all that kind of stuff, people have started flooding back to church. Like, doesn't this feel good? People started flooding back to church. We have a couple in our church that is the legendary couple, Ted and Cretia. They're awesome, okay? They love, for all 26 years of our church's history, they have led Bible studies. They love everybody. They build into everybody. They are both a hug waiting to happen. They usually go to more than one service. They're just hugging people in the courtyard. Everybody loves this couple. They're cool. They're with it. And he is 94 years old. And he has not lost a step. He has not lost his fastball. She is unwilling to tell anybody her age. But we think she's in the same ballpark, okay? And Ted and Cretia, because he's 94, they're like, couldn't come to church for a year. They're like, we're the most vulnerable people on the planet, stuff like that. So we're not, we can't be there. We're online, all of this stuff. And then what happened is this. So about 3 weeks ago, they called us and they said, hey, we have been fully vaccinated. We're coming back this weekend. And we're like, everybody, our whole staff was like, yes, we missed them terribly. They're back. And so we went, let's celebrate them. So we sent a limousine to their house on Sunday morning and pulled up in front of their house, took them through Starbucks, all the stuff on the way down. And then when they pull up in front of our church, they open the door. We had a red carpet all the way from the parking lot, all the way through the entire courtyard, all the way into church for Ted and Cretia, okay? And they got back, and we lined the carpet with all of our staff and a couple hundred people, and when they pulled up into church, applause broke out and cheers broke out. The entire time, they walked all the way down, all the way up into church. The place just went crazy for them, okay? And I interviewed Ted afterwards, and I said, what was it like? And you know what he said to me? He looked around and he said, it was like coming home. It was like coming home. And here's what I want to say to you all, okay? Those of you online, okay, I want to say this with all my heart, okay? Genesis chapter 1 says, it is not good for men and women to be alone. It's not good, okay? I'm convinced God put that on the very first page. There it is, on the very first page of the Bible, because God knew we all were going to go, I'm reading through the Bible in a year, which means I usually make it to Genesis 7. So God's like, better put it on the front page. This is a big deal. Jesus' word, 2 or 3 gather in my name. I'm right there. There was something magic happens when Christians gather. And what I want to say to you all here and those of you online is this: the minute, the second it is safe for you, get off your couch and get back to church in the presence of God with God's people, okay? The minute it's safe for you, okay? Stay close, stay calm, and stay connected. Now, let me tell you why this is so powerful. When you're close to God, you have strength and the power of God. When you're calm, you are one of the few people in the world that are emotionally healthy, which is a great gift to give everybody that knows you. And the other thing is this, though. When you stay connected, there's a support you get. I want you to make sure you get this. When you stay connected, like don't leave the church, get back. When you stay connected, there is support you get and power that happens. When you join, when you stay connected, you get support, but power's unleashed. What do you mean by that? Okay, when people connect, there's power. I interviewed a guy named Dr. Henry Cloud. I have a leadership podcast I do every week. I interviewed Dr. Henry Cloud for that, and I asked him a question about Christians and unity. And he said, people have no idea how powerful a unified church is. He said, the only time in the Bible that we see God being afraid is in the Tower of Babel, when they were all headed to do evil, and God went, if they are unified, they can create all the evil they want. And God zapped them and gave them all different languages, and God wrecked their unity, which took away their power. In other words, when you have unity, you have power. When you join together, you have power. And I'll prove it with this. When the pandemic hit and all the schools closed, it looked like all the kids were going online, except for we found out in one community in downtown Sacramento, which is a massively disadvantaged area, there were 300 kids that couldn't go to school in an area where they need it most. And the reason they couldn't go to school was this: they had no Chromebooks to go to school, so they had no laptops, and almost all their homes didn't have Wi-Fi because they couldn't afford it. So 300 kids who most needed to get education were robbed of it right when everything shut down. And we heard about this. Paul says, join with me. So I sent an email to our whole church and I said, Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, I want you on a Zoom call. Join with me on this Zoom call. We'll give you updates about our church and we're gonna try to make something happen for God. And we had about 3,000 people. They were on Facebook and Zoom. And we gave updates on our church. And then I told them exactly, I said, these 300 kids are locked out. They need to get back in. And I said this, so church, here's what we're gonna do. Right now, I want you to give. We wanna raise enough money to buy every single one of those kids a Chromebook laptop for free. And then we are going to buy Wi-Fi hotspots and put that into each home. And we're gonna pay for the Wi-Fi for an entire year. So those kids have a year coverage where they can be in school every day. And I am here to tell you, we thought this was gonna be expensive. It was. And our people in 13 minutes gave $250,000 in 13 minutes. Every one of those kids got Chromebooks. Every one of those kids got hotspots, and they have been back in school ever since. When the church stays close to God, when the church of Jesus Christ keeps its head and stays calm, but when the church stays connected, there is a power unleashed in a community, which you all have been doing. I've been following you guys online. You have done unbelievable stuff for your entire community all year long. That's the call. Before I wrap it up, here's what I want to say this, okay? I want to make sure you got this. Number one is stay close to God. That will give you spiritual strength. Second part of the prescription is stay calm. You'll be the only emotionally healthy person you know. And then the third one is stay connected, because there is a power unleashed when that happens. Let's pray together.